Welcome to State of Affairs. I'm Steve Adubato, coming to you from the Agnes Varus NJTV studio in Newark. It is our pleasure to welcome State Senator Raymond J. Lesniak, candidate for governor of the great state of New Jersey. Good to see you, Senator.
Nice to be here.
How many years have you been in the state legislature?
40. This is my 40th year.
All right, so you said, I am not running.
It's time to move up or move out. I plan on moving up.
You're moving up?
Moving up.
Because?
Because the state needs leadership that is not existing either now or I see with the other Democratic candidates. So I want to make a difference.
Okay.
I've sponsored the most powerful environmental protection laws in the country, prison, civil justice and criminal justice reform, LGBT rights, animal welfare. I've been a champion on these issues. New Jersey needs that type of leadership. It's got problems.
So, speaking of problems, let's start with the state pension crisis. By the way, is it a crisis?
It is a crisis. Sure it is.
Define the crisis.
How about $150 billion between the pension and the health care in not being there?
Well, you mean, let's be clear. You mean for state employees who will be retiring and they expect those pension benefits to be there for them, their health benefits to be there for them, may not be there?
Well, in about 20 or 30 years, they may not be.
If what?
That's a problem if we don't adequately start funding them now. I mean, it's kind of like climate change. We have to start now, or else decades later, there's going to be, we won't be able to catch up.
But, Senator, respectfully, there are those who have come in here to say it has been Democrats and Republicans as governor, together with the legislature, as governors, together with the legislature, who have not adequately funded on the state end, right, their fair share. What would you say to those who say, you know what? Ray Lesniak, Senator Lesniak's been a leader in so many areas. What has the senator done to make sure the state has put in their fair share so the pension wouldn't be in crisis today?
And that's why I'm running for governor. But by the way, I did have a proposal 10 years ago to put $6 to $8 billion in the pension fund.
In one fiscal year?
Yes.
When the budget, now it's $35 billion, the state budget. What could it have been then?
That would have solved the problem.
At the time?
That would have, because it would have grown over years. But the bottom line is, though, our government needs to be restructured and reformed.
Define that.
We have to do things like have a control of education. There's $1 billion, I've identified it, wasted in government, in education, that never gets to the classroom. Never gets to the classroom.
Well, what's wrong with having a head of the Department of Education? What would be the difference between that person and a controller of education?
I'll tell you why, because they cover up, I'm sorry, but they cover up for each other. Yes, money goes into the, complaints go to the Office of Fiscal Affairs.
In the Department of Education.
In the Department of Education, and it gets into a black hole because it's a bureaucracy that takes care of each other. We need outsiders to overlook that spending. We need that in every aspect of government. How about the Port Authority? You know how much money gets wasted in the Port Authority? I would put commuters, members of recommended by the AAA, New Jersey Transit, same thing. How about the parole board? We have a political patronage system there. They get $120,000 a year, health benefits, pension benefits, when retired judges can do it for $300 a day.
But go back again.
By the way, these are things that a legislator can't do. Only a governor can restructure and reform government.
Respectfully, Senator, if you were governor, would you say, you know what? Yeah. I would propose raising taxes on wealthier New Jerseyans.
I already support the millionaires tax.
I would raise taxes. I would propose raising taxes on millionaires and have that money as much as possible go directly into funding the pension crisis, right?
I already have legislation to do that.
But, Senator, even if a significant percentage of those millionaires said, I'm out of New Jersey, it's an overtaxed state, I'm going to Florida, I'm going somewhere else, you'd say?
I'm saying that's not true. It doesn't happen. We have lower, we would have, even with the millionaires tax, we had it. We had it on the previous governors, but it expired. Nobody was leaving. They left because if they would leave because of the estate tax, but we did away with that. Okay, so that's not going to be a key factor.
You don't think it matters whether we increase taxes on wealthier New Jerseyans?
I do not at all. They did it in California, and their economy is booming. Same thing with New York. They've done it.
Let me ask you this.
By the way, also corporations. We have loopholes that 40...
Hit them even harder?
Wait, we have... No. loopholes. We have loopholes that 40 other states have closed. 40. They can't go anywhere because 40 other states have it. That's another $200-300 million.
Real quick, before I let get off the pension issue.
Wait, don't forget Exxon. My suit to overturn the Exxon case.
Yeah, we do.
That's
remember that.
$2 billion
Raphael P. Roman and I on Capitol Report did have you talk about that. You were one of the first people to lead that effort. Let me ask you this.
Yes.
Would you, as governor, in any way have a renegotiation with public employees as to what their relationship is with the state and whether health care benefits and pension benefits should be renegotiated for newer employees? Would you do that?
Absolutely.
You would?
Of course I would. And not only for
but
newer
that's a
employees. Hold on. It can be renegotiated if you make the payments that are necessary.
You mean the state makes the payments?
The state makes the payments to have the pension secure, okay? And then you can sit down and negotiate it. And I believe they will negotiate it.
Only if the state does their part.
Only if the state does their part.
You know taxes, school funding better than most.
Yes.
What do you think of the idea? What do you say to those who say, you know what, there are a whole range of school systems that are not getting the state funding that they should be getting under the current law for school funding, and that we really need to take a hard look at this because those school districts that are not getting that funding are having to raise property taxes, and those people can't even afford their homes anymore. You say, Senator?
I say they're right. And they're particularly right in areas of low-income families. The most important time in a child's ability to learn is from prenatal to 3. And we don't do any help there. Okay, we should have these wraparound neighborhood schools that provide services for those families so those kids, when they get to school, have an ability to learn. Nobody's doing anything about that. I would do that.
Well, you're talking about urban areas.
Yes.
But I'm talking about beyond that, because those are some of the Abbott districts and some other urban areas. What about the Jersey cities and the Hobokens, who some people say, you know what? Their economy's booming. Real estate's booming there. Property values are high. And they don't need that state aid that they're getting. They should cut back some of that and send it to some suburban areas that are really struggling. You say? Well,
what I say is that they should not be held harmless because they're getting more money than they particularly need. And I'd go in and audit them. And I'd show them that they could save money and not lose one dime in terms of efficiency.
But you would not take money away from those school districts?
I'd show them where they're wasting money and take that money away. Yes, absolutely.
Affordable Care
Absolutely.
Act. Affordable Care Act. Republican members of Congress, many of them, and President Trump, repeal and replace. We don't know what they're going to talk about replacing it with as we do this program early in March 2017. What are your concerns about New Jersey residents who have benefited? Many say they've benefited from the Affordable Care Act, but other businesses have said they've been hurt by the Affordable Care Act.
Well, overall, we have hundreds of thousands of people who rely on it. Without it, our charity care would go through the roof.
Charity care
go through the roof.
Make it clear to folks.
Sure.
Charity care. If someone goes into the emergency room, you must be treated by law.
Well, of
right?
course. You don't want to turn them away.
Right. So that's state funding for hospitals who treat those people.
Yes.
And so what's your concern here? So we explain.
My concern is if they're not, these folks now no longer have coverage. If the Affordable Care Act goes away, they're going to be going to the hospitals and they're not going to be able to get treated because there's not enough money to treat them. We would have. Let's hope and pray that they don't abolish the Affordable Care Act.
Can we play a word association, Senator? I say President Donald Trump. You say?
Dangerous. Dangerous. Hopefully he'll change, but he is instilling fear in people. Throughout the world, other countries, NATO countries are concerned about my Muslim brothers and sisters in my neighborhood. I live in that neighborhood. They're fearful of his policies and his rhetoric. They're being attacked themselves.
What could it mean in New Jersey, per se?
In New Jersey, we have a large immigrant population. What we don't want is them to go on the ground so that when crimes are committed, they're not reported, they're not witnessed, if they fear that they're going to come forward and then be deported. So we need a path for legalization for those citizens. And instead of fearful, look at Elizabeth downtown. It's booming. It's booming because of the immigrant population.
Leadership. Number one lesson, you're 40 years in the state legislature. And by the way, I should disclose that in a different life. In the mid-1980s,
You chose wisely.
No, I didn't. No. Hey, Ray.
People chose for you.
Yeah, that's a little inside. I lost my seat, and I was elected to the state legislature as a very young man.
Yes.
Actually took over. You were the leader in the state legislature, in the assembly, in the environment end, and I wound up doing some environmental issues, and I lost my seat soon thereafter. And you said, don't come back, go find another career. And this is where I am, but that's not the issue. The question is this. While I happen to have served with you in the legislature for a short time, I'm going to ask you this. After 40 years, the number one lesson you've learned about leadership that you would take into the governorship is?
Relationships. We had a close relationship.
Sure did.
When I needed your vote, I got it. More so on the issue. The issue was important, but maybe you're iffy on something, but if you have a relationship, hey, I need you. Come on, we're buddies, we're friends. Relationships count, and that's why my experience is going to count.
So why does compromise get such a bad name for so many people? Why is that?
Because sometimes compromise can be bad. I'll give you a good example.
Real quick.
I talked about the parole board, okay? When they put their buddies on a parole board, unqualified, that's a part of compromise and dealing that doesn't work, that's bad. But good compromises like the relationship I have with Tom Kaine and John Brandig.
Yes. State Senator Ray Lesniak, 40 years in the New Jersey State Legislature, a few in the Assembly, most in the Senate, the upper house. For those of us who were in the lower house, believe me, we knew the difference. Thank you. Appreciate it, Senator.
My pleasure.
Wish you
Thanks
all the best.
for having me.
Folks, stay with us on State of Affairs. We're right back right after this.
State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Agnes Veris NJTV studio at 2 Gateway. Funding has been provided by RWJ Barnabas Health, New Jersey Resources, NJM, International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 825, the Northeast Regional Council of Carpenters, TD Bank, MD Advantage Insurance Company of New Jersey, and by these public-spirited organizations, individuals, and associations committed to informing New Jersey citizens about the important issues facing the Garden State, and by Employers Association of New Jersey.